Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the special council meeting for Tuesday, April the 7th, at 7 p.m. I'd like to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded for public viewing. With that, I would like to ask for a motion to adopt this evening's agenda.
So
Moved by Councillor Plant, seconded by Councillor Colwell. Questions of the motion? Being none, all in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried. If anybody has a conflict of interest, please grab it from the cabinet and pass it into the clerk stating the reason. With that, item 4.1, we'll need a motion to approve the regular council meeting minutes from March the 9th, 2026. So it's moved by Deputy Mayor Blinas, seconded by Councillor Dykstra. Questions to the motion? Seeing no questions to the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Moving on to item 4.2, committee of the whole meeting for March the 23rd, 2026. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Councillor Thorne,
Second.
seconded by Councillor Colwell. Questions to the motion? Seeing no questions of the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. With that, you would have all received the consent agenda within your package. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? So moved by Councillor Bland, seconded by Councillor Thorne. Questions to the motion? Seeing no questions to the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. With that, I'll ask our chief to come up and for item number 6.1, Salisbury Fire and Rescue update from Chief Platt.
Well, thank you. I don't think I'll go through it as fast as you guys did that. I thought I'd be sitting there a little bit longer. But thanks for having me. So I'm gonna go through some of the data that you guys kind of seen before and talk a little bit about some changes within fire departments since we last talked. In the fall, now that we moved into our new hall, we had available space in our lockers. Yay! So we were able to recruit 4 new people because we've been full for a long, long time. So we went with the focus of people who were working on shift work that could be available for like daytime calls and just odd shifts versus a lot that we have right now that are Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 type roles. So please welcome Ethan, Jared, Justin, and Nick to the department. They started in February, and we've been getting them kind of acclimated to everything. Just last Monday, we had them out for their first training where they were in gear. We took them to some Auto X training. We actually had a call for an automobile accident before training. It literally just ended when training started, and while we were in training, we had another one. So they didn't go to those, but a lot of the department did go, but we stayed behind in Trent's Yard, and they were able to focus on some of the trainings. We were able to get really good hands-on experience with it. With them over the year, they're going to be starting their level 1 training probably in the fall, which is critical for really around fires. As for other things such as like wildland, they're going to do their EFF course, and they'll be ready for that. And anything medical wise, once they get the first aid, they're good there. And any motor vehicle accidents, it's all painted house. There's nothing special they need for that. So they're really, once they get all their gear in place, they're ready to start responding to calls. Last year, towards the end of last year, I think the last time I talked to you guys might have been October-ish. Just after we had that busy stretch in August, September, we had DNR out 2 weeks ago, and they're already predicting it's going to be worse this year than it was last year. So there is drizzle and rain in the forecast for the next, it's been like that. Yep, it's all good. Keep it coming. But they did start with the DNR. They opened up DNR and the notifications April 2nd. So we did made our first post saying that now check to see if it's safe to burn. And it's going to be one of those seasons for us. So in preparations, the calls we were much higher last year than we were the year before. I think we were about 179 last year. We were 208 at the end of the year. Right now, we're running on par with last year, but I think the summer's gonna really dictate how the year's gonna go. Depending on weather, that's really gonna drive things, for us. So we're prepping for that. We brought our old engine out of storage that was in Sussex. We get all the pump, everything certified. We're getting it geared. We're treating it especially as a hazmat unit and a forestry unit. So all our forestry stuff's on it, so you can carry a crew with all the forestry gear. It also carries a lot of stuff for if we have spills and stuff like that, that has that stuff on it. It's just with our current engine, it can't be the trick of all trades on it. It's overloaded right now and it's hard to put some really good stuff on it. So this was a way of getting the forestry stuff off it, putting it on another truck that could be of use. And we've always used it for our hazmat side. So that's what we're using that old engine for. And some of the lessons we learned last year is getting water out of brooks and stuff like that. We're looking at using that old engine as almost like a pump at some of these sites, like we can just go there, set it up. Yeah, and pull the water all out, and run all day, just pump the water and. You know, the truck can show up and hook up and, yeah, so that's our plan for this year, with it.
Is that older truck still in good working condition?
Yeah, yeah, it's still ticking. We had, the mechanics out and check it all over, certify all the pumps and stuff like that. And, it's good. So no concerns there with it. The downside with it is the volume of water it holds is much smaller. It's 800 gallons versus, our current engine, which is 1200. So it doesn't shuttle much, but if you go set it up as a hydrant, that's where it will work in. With the cab, the operator can be in and out of the elements too, if need be. Not there, all the pumps. Response times, this is one that we started tracking last year. One of the things that we're kind of shifting, so the numbers will kind of move, is that, we were kind of tracking, like, if, myself or Brad were to go up in the truck and get there on scene to start relaying information back. We're gonna move away from tracking that as the arrival time and more so when we have a crew that can do something as the arrival time. I think it's more fair than us being quickly able to get there, but then it's still another 20 minutes or whatnot for the engine to arrive with a working crew. So we want it to be accurate to when we can provide assistance, and we think that would be the time. So
is that what that arrived number there reflects?
the number in blue is when we're leaving the hall. So, and the number that is the first number in green there, which represents the yellow band, is the time it takes from us to get from the hall to itself. We started that shift in Q1, so the numbers, but you'll see in Q2 as we focus on doing it that way, that those numbers may shift a bit more.
And green would be how long you're out.
Green is how long we're out for. It's typically an hour is usually it. What we don't count in there is the cleanup time afterwards, which we usually peg to 30 minutes to an hour, depending on what it is. If it's a fire, it's usually a lot longer, but if it's more vehicle accident medical, it's usually 30 minutes just to get things back in order.
Still impressive to be roughly 50 minutes on average
Yeah,
to be able to get ready to go and there.
yeah. No, it is.
For volunteer fire company, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's impressive.
We have a lot of people right in the village. They get there very, very quickly and they get at the door very, very quickly. So we're very fortunate for that. Round attendance. So attendance has been going down over the last year. The gray is 2025, even though the legend doesn't say that. And red is this last quarter. What we had a shift in is a lot of people that were really, really high in attendance just had life changes. And they just kind of pulled back a bit, whether it be career changes that impact their responses and schooling, and stuff, that kind of takes them a bit, so. That's why it's important that we get more members that are available during some of those other hours.
So is your goal still 25% as a minimum?
Yeah.
or-
25 is the minimum. Yeah, and, so we do have, as I have there, the top members in the last 12 months, we have Steven Stevens is the highest with 72%. So we have quite a few that are really, really high. Even though some of them have full-time jobs outside, some people are retired within the community, so they can go.
Are remote workers taking advantage of working from the station?
We do have some, yep. Roy takes advantage of it, he's there. And Brad's been working out of that office as well, quite a bit. So there's some of the biggest ones, but there has been others that have been in from time to time, where they're studying for school, they just did their studying there.
Okay.
Yeah. This is compared last year to this year, so, the top chart is, the time of day and the amount of calls, so we can see most of our calls last year was during the weekday. So that's why there's an emphasis on, we need daytime people. Just last week, we had a fire up on the Bannister Road and, we only had 2 people to get a truck out. And, so they went up with, the new big tanker because there was just 2 of them. While there were other people coming in from Moncton to come in, they left work and, they got the other truck, but it was a while before they could get up there, to that fire. And today they had a fire up on Upper Mountain Road and, they were able to get not a full crew in the truck to get it out, but they were able to get the truck out and then they had crews coming after, so it's a time. But they had, when we called mutual aid, they also had the same trouble, they didn't have a lot of working crew. They were able to provide trucks and water and stuff like that, so it impacts us all, but it's why I'm focusing on new people that are available during the daytime, if we can.
Are the other mutual aid departments doing the same? Do you know?
I don't know what their recruitment strategies are.
Recruitment wise, you mean?
Yeah, like are they looking at the same similar numbers as what we are? And taking the same approach, like,
Yeah, I don't know. Numbers wise, I know we're, much higher than most of our mutual aid departments. With Petty Kodiak probably being second to us
Mhm.
on that side. But we take way more than they do.
Call wise, right? Yeah.
So with the call last week with 2 people,
Yeah,
how do we make sure there's always at least 1 person? How does that even work? 2 is not one.
2 is not a lot and it's hard when it's a volunteer, with everybody being at work. It just happened to be, one person that does shift work was around, well, and there was 2 people doing shift work. Stephen was later to get to that call, he was just out of town. And, Brad's around during the day, but he was out of town, he was in Moncton gathering supplies. So it's just one of those things that happens.
Hmm. That's why we have mutual aid, right?
Yeah, that's why we have mutual aid and they were called, right away. Yep. The bottom chart is really the number of responders, the average responders we have. So if you look at the top one, we have 82 calls that were weekdays. The one right below it shows that we have 7.4. That shows where we have that lowest number of responders is during the day, and that's why we have that focus on that. So just a little update on things that we kind of got going on. One of the challenges we have right now is we can't get water out of our cistern at the hall. So we're just waiting for that to arrive, the new hydrant to get in there. So we've been still using the hydrant down here this winter. Now that the the water levels are up, we'll be able to use the hydrant there on, is it McDonald or Braemar? Braemar.
Around the corner.
Around the corner, they used it, today, but we'll be able to start using that again, to fill up, but depending on if there's a drought, we really want to get that hydrant going before we get into the fire season. The SCBA compressor's still down here, it's just trying to get the contractors to coordinate, but it's, so when we get a fire, it's trucks usually all come down here to get water and to get the air topped up before we head back to the hall, to then start washing hoses and stuff like that. There are a few various items around the hall that are being addressed, right now. The exhaust system, as an example, the thermostat that's in there, we think it's backwards, don't know, but when it kicks on, it exhausts all the air in the bay, that bay, it never turns off, so until someone turns the thing down, so. I think it's, we think it's supposed to be backwards to exhaust the heat. But it's, works like a baseboard heater, and that when it gets colder than the temp, that's when it's on to try to heat up the place. But since it's exhausting all the air in the middle of winter, it pulls from the outdoors and it was cooling off the bay floor quite a bit, so we're just trying to get that addressed. Tanker 23's been out of service for a few weeks. We noticed some leaking. The pump was starting to fail. It was down to like 60% effectiveness. So we had to make a decision if we were gonna rebuild it or have to let it go, but based on what they quoted us, we figured it'd be good to investigate the pump back up. It's an older truck, but it's cheaper just to keep it going than just let it go. I was expecting it to be a couple more weeks, but I just heard a couple hours ago that we may have it for the end of this week, so hopefully they'll be back and we'll have it back in service, yeah. Yeah, I guess it's in the way of a Fredericton truck, so they want to get it down.
It's great planning.
And we got 4 more packs, SCBA packs. This has been something we've been doing over the last couple of years, to upgrade those. I was trying to pick from what was left of our older packs to put on that old engine for wildland fires, and every bottle I picked up was end of life, end of life, end of life. And I'm like, yeah, we're definitely getting to that point where we were really, really due to get all that stuff replaced.
Year 3, I think, right? This is year 3.
Yeah, this is year 3. Yeah, so that's a total of 12 packs and I think 30 bottles is what we got with it. So it's been much needed as our old ones were falling apart and really into life. And we continue to update our SOPs and SOGs. I still got the number put on there, but we, put a lot in place last year and looking to put more in place this year. That's, is that it?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Oh, excellent. So, yeah, that was it. Questions for me?
Good job.
Great job.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I know this is gonna be the last time I'm presenting for you guys. So for any of you guys that aren't running again, I don't know yet. It's been a pleasure working with you. You guys have been really, really good. And I want to thank you guys for everything that you guys done for the fire department, and wish you guys best of luck in the elections.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye.
We'll now move on to item number 7, reports and recommendations from committees and private meetings. Item 7.1, recommendations from the closed meeting of January 12th, 2026.
So as always, we'll read background. This has 2 motions that are related to the same same thing, I guess, but, different locations, so, where they're separate agreements, we propose them to be separate motions or resolutions of the council, but, without further ado, the background. On November 17th, 2025, and subsequently on January 12th, 2026, town council discussed proposed agreements and financing options with True Sun Solar Energies pursuant to section 68(1)(c) of the Local Governance Act. The intent of these deliberations were the essence of the agreements between the town and True Sun for the installation of solar panels at Salisbury Town Hall and Salisbury Fire Rescue Station. At the direction of council, final agreements have been drafted with True Sun Solar Energy and reviewed by the town's solicitor. The agreements outline the buying arrangements between both parties, whereby the town will participate in a program that is exclusive to municipalities, which essentially reduces the upfront cost of the solar panels to the amount that MB Power will rebate. And then throughout the duration of the agreement, True Sun and the town essentially cost share the energy savings that are provided or that are received by way of installation of the solar panels. The term of the agreements are over 15 years for the fire hall and 20 years for town hall, with the fire hall having an additional contribution beyond the MB Power rebates as per our capital plan. And then the upfront cost for the fire hall, or for town hall, sorry, is the amount that the MB Power rebate will provide. And then the panels pending ratification of the agreement are expected to be installed in the summer of 2026. And the agreements, like I mentioned, are two separate ones. So there are two separate recommendations on the floor, but maybe we have the first one moved and then can answer any questions on both interchangeably, I would say. And then there's a second solution after that.
I'll move the council enter into a 15-year agreement between the town of Salisbury and True Sun Solar Energy for the purchase, acquisition, maintenance, repair, and ongoing energy saving sharing for Salisbury Fire Rescue Station located at 3105 Main Street, Salisbury, for a total sale upfront price of $57,790, and authorize the clerk and mayor to sign and affix the corporate seal accordingly, pending approval from MB Power's rebate program.
Seconded. It's moved by Councillor Colwell, seconded by Councillor Dykstra. Questions to the motion?
Just to make sure I understand the financing of it. So for the fire hall, the MB Power rebate is 27,790,
Yes, Yeah.
and the 30 is what we budgeted.
in our capital plan,
And for our building, the full amount is the rebate,
correct, the 30.
so it doesn't affect this year's operating budget.
Correct, yeah, there is like, I don't wanna say a net zero, because there's 30,000 for the fire hall, that was what was budgeted. The intent of that is because we knew we were going to put solar panels into the fire hall, and we knew that the agreement, MB Power rebate, sorry, would cover 27,000. But sometimes MB Power changes their programs last minute, so we budgeted that same amount in the event that MB Power decided to change their programs, which they did. However, we've been in close contact with them and they've been very collaborative with us, so the direction was to include that plus the rebate, and ultimately it made it become a 15-year program or agreement.
And we should start to see savings right away.
As soon as they're installed.
Right.
Yeah, as soon as they're installed. Yeah. It essentially will mean like that we'll pay at least 20% less in energy savings in a worst case scenario. But yeah,
It's a win-win.
absolutely.
Where do the panels go for this building?
On the roof, it's a flat roof, so that's one piece that's easier. At the fire hall, they're ground mounted just based on the positioning of the building. But here it'll be on the flat roof.
Just out of curiosity, are you gonna have insurance issues with that?
With being on the roof, they're I'm not gonna be able to explain this properly.
We talked about it.
Yes,
Reputation,
yeah.
or not?
They don't,
No, I mean,
yeah,
know.
non-invasive is probably the word to use.
That's what they indicated.
My understanding in Ontario, they're having more. I don't know if it's necessarily issues specifically to roof mounts, but they do have, it tends to be a higher premium associated with roof mounted solar installation.
So the piece, technically, we don't have, and as always, they won't give us, like, they won't tell us how it affects insurance, they'll give us risk pieces. So most of that was reviewed with the town's lawyer for the agreement that has a lot of changes with respect to indemnification mostly. We can definitely double check though and just see what the precedent is. Yeah,
I just want to put an insurance company what that cost is, because it does incur more risk from their perspective, I believe.
100%, yeah, 100%.
I suppose in that same vein, the ones on the ground are at risk of vandalism and
Vandalism, yes, but not an impact to your critical for the structure. It's the same problem with farms they're having, because they're having some solar installation on barn roofs and they're increasing premiums to compensate for that.
Interesting.
That would make sense though, I think, because the premium will increase because you're insuring more, but is it more of they're rating it as a higher risk because
Yes.
they're on there?
I can't explain.
Are they flat roofs or non-flat?
No,
No,
flat roofs
Okay.
are a different story. I
Okay.
can't, I'm just telling you that is something to
Okay.
check into. At least, to get the nasty surprise.
right,
Later,
yeah, right,
you can find out first.
right.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, contrary minded. Motion carried. Moving on to item 7.1. Well, motion.
Yeah.
B, I guess.
B.
I think is what-
I'll move that council enter into a 20-year agreement between the town of Salisbury and True Sun Solar Energy for the purchase, acquisition, maintenance, repair, and ongoing energy saving sharing for Salisbury Town Hall located at 56 Douglas Street, Salisbury, for a total sale upfront price of $36,647, and authorize the clerk and mayor to sign and affix the corporate seal accordingly pending approval from MD Powers rebate programs. So moved.
So by Councillor Thorne, second by Councillor Glant. Questions, to the motion?
Not a question, just a comment, like, this would be something that would be very good for the schools to have.
Probably, but they don't do the same arrangement as they do with municipalities.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, for them, it's because there's municipalities are not going away, so there's a way that, like, cause we own the solar panels as soon as they're installed, or else we wouldn't be able to enter into the agreement, so, schools are creatures of the province even more than we're creatures of the province,
Right.
so it can, yeah, it would be more of a risk, but it would be a good thing. Cause I would say there would need to be more rebates from MD Power or equivalent for them to look at that, but I think they're quite behind even for new schools in terms of energy. But,
If only it was a priority.
yes.
Questions to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Moving on to 7.2, recommendation of committee of the whole meeting of March the 23rd. I'd like to read the resolution.
I'll go through the background first, sorry, yeah. So like the mayor mentioned, on March 23rd, town council was presented with the proposed violence and harassment policy pursuant to regulation or general regulation 91-191 of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Policy was developed to replace the matters that deal with violence and harassment in what was our former health and safety policy, which has been reviewed and updated as part of our ongoing program review with WorkSafe New Brunswick. Essentially, we've split that policy into a health and safety policy, a one-pager, and the proposed violence and harassment policy. This policy meets the legislative requirements, including a violence and harassment risk assessment, and includes the risk assessment in an appendix that will be updated as necessary under the general principles of the policy that is being recommended to council. And then the other piece is that there's a second component of the resolution, which is to essentially repeal what was our former health and safety policy, now that it is included in this, and now that the contents of that former policy are covered in updated policies or documents throughout our health and safety program. With that recommendation on the floor.
do you want both at the same time or?
Yeah, they can be done together. I think, Scott, do we have them included as one? They're split?
Yeah.
Okay, that's separate one, sorry, yeah.
They're not numbered differently, so. You have a number different.
We'll do separate ones then if they're split on each side.
So this will
Sorry.
be for 2026 resolution number 2026-084.
What?
We don't have those numbers.
I'll move the council adopt the violence and harassment policy as presented.
Seconded.
So moved by Deputy Mayor Blina, seconded by Councillor Thorne. Any questions to them? Are we doing the second one now?
Special motion first, yeah.
Okay. Questions, motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Moving on to resolution number 2026-085. Just a second.
I'm scared to read.
I move that as per direction from town council on September 8th, 2025, and based on the approval of a revised health and safety policy during that same meeting, and the subsequent adoption of a violence and harassment policy on April seventh, 2026. Council hereby repeal the existing health and safety policy adopted on April 11th, 2023, with the content of that policy now included in various health and safety policies, programs, and procedures as per the ongoing health and safety program review.
Second, moved by Counselor Glantz, seconded by Counselor Dykstra. Questions to the motion? See no questions to the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried.
It messes you up when you're reading it though, because as you update it, it's.
It does. the whole
It
thing, I know.
moves.
I've been downloading the whole package and following along with the whole. It never moves.
That's a smart thing to do. But the last meeting we did that, and I kept losing my place.
Oh my gosh.
All right, moving on to number 8, report from administration. Move on to item 8.1, award of Sols 2026-01, River Road.
So as council will recall, we discussed this in principle, or provided an unofficial update, I would say, on in March at our committee of the whole meeting. This project involves the extension of storm sewer on River Road and the extension of sidewalk on River Road in anticipation of the P380 bridge replacement commencing next year, and also in anticipation of the elementary school location. The beauty, I would say, of this project is the significant difference between what was budgeted and estimated versus what the project closed at. So as we talked about at committee of the whole, it was extremely competitive. Total of 9 bids were received. All of them were compliant. And at this point, the town is recommending awarding to the lowest bidder. And we have issued an intent to award letter and awaiting formal approval from council. So with that recommendation on the floor.
I move that council award Sols 2026-01 River Road to Carson Development Limited in the amount of $517,150, excluding HST, and authorize the clerk and mayor to sign relevant contract documents and affix the corporate seal accordingly.
Seconded.
So moved by Counselor Glantz, seconded by Counselor Thorne. Questions to the motion?
I'll mention on that one too, just as a quick FYI, we had a kickoff meeting this week, and it may start very soon. So we're preparing resident notices in the event that that does. We're just waiting on some formalities that we'll find out at the kickoff meeting, but it is likely that it will start much earlier than what most of our capital projects do. So.
Questions to the motion?
It's nice to see them come in below after seeing them in high for so long.
Yes, yeah, it was and all of them were low, and it's not like this is an oddball. So it was nice, yeah.
See no questions, all in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried. Moving on to item 8.2, award of Sols 2025-02, the annual street patching program.
So as always, the town issues an RFQ for our annual patching program. We have $90,000 budgeted in our general operating fund for the annual patching program. This is specific to the former village. We always estimate an amount of 150 tons, which just gives us a consistent pricing point for all the proponents. We issued 3 RFQs by invite, received 3 compliant bids. And are recommending to the lowest bidder, and as with previous years, based on the price received, that puts us at just over 61,000. Our resolution also proposes that council are able to increase the tonnage insofar as they don't go over the budget, essentially to maximize both the budget and also leverage that remaining funding for additional patching. So with that recommendation on the floor.
I'll move that council award tender RFQ SALS 2026-202 to Browns Paving Limited for the annual street patching program in the amount of $61,500, excluding HST, based on the estimated tonnage of 150 tons, and authorize administration to add additional patching tonnage as may be required insofar as the total contribution is within the 2026 patching budget of $90,000.
It's moved by Counselor Dykstra, seconded by Deputy Mayor Blinas. Questions to the motion?
Actually lower than last year.
How is the expectation that we will spend the full 90? Like what have we done in previous?
We generally have, yeah. Put it this way, we can easily spend the.
Get an extra 75 ton.
What's that?
If you get an extra 75 ton done, why wouldn't you?
That's the thing, yeah, but I think that we've always pushed
There's lots of holes.
Yes, yeah, there's no shortage of them. There's no shortage.
All right, moving on to item 8.3, award of Sols 2025-03 Dundee Drive wearing service. Sorry, motion carried.
Now on to 8.3. So I do have a bit of a spiel on this one just because the memo can be a little bit confusing. And I wanted to give some more background on this. So as council knows, we talked about some general direction at the committee of the whole meeting following the River Road direction. This makes it seem like we're coming back with the same request, but it is different. It's because the town has a funding agreement with Dundee Drive that we're looking for some direction on. So the context of this recommendation that's on the floor or coming on the floor is that council, the town, issued 3 by invite RFQs for asphalt wearing surface on Dundee Drive, specifically the extended portion of the street as part of the development that occurred starting last year. The town, under our residential incentive program, agreed to fund that asphalt wearing surface because it fell under the incentive that we provide. So we had budgeted or allocated our full $150,000 budget towards that project or that contribution. But at the same time, the town was successful in receiving funding through RDC's housing stream for both McDonald Road last year and this extension under the same agreement over 2 years. Specifically because the work was ancillary to housing enabling work, essentially. So the project, specifically the asphalt wearing surface, came in just over 109,000, excluding HST, again, continuing that trend that we've seen with some of these other projects of coming in lower than anticipated. And similar to River Road, but in this case, it's with RDC funding, it would leave provincial dollars on the table. The province has given less of a favorable indication that they'll allow us to, 1, carry over funding, or 2, allow us to reallocate. So this specifically needs to go towards essentially Dundee. We can't move it and say go towards XYZ street unless we were to propose a way that it enabled housing. So as part of our work to explore options to exhaust that funding, we went to the lowest bidder under this RFQ process, of which there were 2 compliant of the 3 invited. The 3rd didn't submit on this one. And we asked for a price on 100 meters of pulverizing and paving. So that's the same work that was done on McDonald Road last year, where they pulverized the existing asphalt that's there, reuse that on site, and then adjust the manholes, adjust the shoulders, adjust the driveway tie-ins. So we asked for a price of 100 meters of that, only for the sake of having a price to use. Dundee, between contract point for the new extension and Braemar, is 250 meters. So we just use that as a ballpark number. So to do Dundee in its entirety, so to exhaust that funding, leverage the contract price and resurface the entirety of that street up to the Braemar intersection, it would cost just over $212,000. If we were to just do the extension, so just the asphalt wearing surface, it would leave almost $72,000 of RDC funding on the table. It would also unlock $65,000 in our residential incentive program. So that's money that we have budgeted that we had anticipated putting towards this. And the other piece that I'll mention is that we did have 2 applications under the program that we were holding until we got this pricing. We've since approved them. So that $65,000 includes the fact that that other funding has been committed as well. So we essentially see 4 options, with a 5th being not do the asphalt wearing surface at all of the extension, which technically isn't an option because we do have contractual agreements. So we see 4 practical options. One of them is that we do the asphalt wearing surface on the new extension only. So that is well under budget, leaves the funding that I just mentioned on the table. The second is that we exhaust the RDC funding. So we go as far as that 71,000 or 72,000 essentially would take us, which would resurface based on the pricing that we have for 100 meters. It would take us about 218 out of 250 meters. And it would require a small additional contribution from the town, so about 17,000. Keeping in mind that we are carrying a contingency on the extension surface, which basically it's a wash essentially. And the next one would be to exhaust the town funding, so to use our residential incentive program and the RDC funding to get as far as that would take us, which would take us hundred and 72 meters out of 250, and would not require anything further from our operating budget. And then ultimately the recommended amount, given the fact that if we do 218 or 230 out of 250, the likelihood of going back in the future for those last small stretch would be very slim. Resurfacing that full piece would require us to take 75,000 from the additional operating to capital amounts that we have available based on the differences in the River Road contract. And then, like I mentioned, there is the fifth option that technically is not a practical option, but it's to not do any of it. Just updates based on our direction that we got from council in March at Committee of the Whole. We had mentioned that we were showing numbers for the River Road project at 90%, although our funding was approved at 75. They've met us in the middle and then a little bit some, so they've agreed to do 85 instead of 90. So in the end, when that is done, if we also did the 75,000, that adjusted number is that we would have 293,000 available, quote unquote, on the table for consideration for the new council. And if RDC for some reason does not fund the sidewalk on River Road, it would still leave over 230,000. So there's no concerns there with respect to tying any hands. There's still, that's why we're bringing it, even though the direction was to save some of that. We think it's valuable to take that 75,000 and do the whole stretch. And then in terms of rationale, Dundee is one of our streets that sees lots of patching, lots of that tonnage that we just talked about. So based on that, it's a contender for pulverizing resurfacing. The price is competitive. It would allow us to check off a priority that, again, like we mentioned at March Committee of the Whole, we had deferred based on anticipated costs for River Road. And then to stress, we can't take this money and put it somewhere else. So there is a likelihood that it would quite literally leave it on the table. We usually find other ways to use it, but we're not confident that would happen with this case. And then last but not least, there is time technically for a council decision, because this work will not actually be done until August, just based on the permitting timeline for the second building as part of that project. But we are recommending it so that we can update our projections accordingly, tell the contractor and lock in the work, because if those are the prices that we're seeing, then other municipalities are going to start booking them up as well. So with that really long spiel, there is a recommendation on the floor, and then we can answer any questions that council might have, any justification or background information. Happy to share.
I'll move that council award tender RFQ SALS 2026-3 to Brown's Paving Limited for asphalt paving of the Dundee Drive as per residential subdivision agreement number 3 at the price of $109,040.20 excluding HST, and direct administration to undertake the pulverized and resurfacing of existing Dundee Drive, leveraging approved provincial funds, committed town funds, and approximately $75,000 from the town's remaining operating to capital budget as outlined in option 1 presented by administration.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Blina, seconded by Councilor Thorne. Okay. Questions, motion?
I'd like to add, I drove down Dundee up to where the new buildings are. That road's in awful shape.
Yes, yeah,
It needs this work.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I was gonna add that same thing. I drove up, but for essentially, when you referred to it, you're gonna be deferring patching that would have had to take place that can be used elsewhere. Yeah. That is a bonus.
And the other piece is sorry.
To that point, can some of that patching budget, rather than using that extra 29,000, can that be allocated towards this project and be done with it? Go full 250 meters and.
That motion, the 75,000 would be the full
Takes care of
250
it
meters,
all.
it would be the full thing. And it would still leave that, whatever that amount was, the 200 and some thousand. We did discuss, like, the reality is that if we do not go that full 250 meters, then the only way that the rest of that street is going to be resurfaced is through a patching program. If we do it this way, it will be pulverized,
Yeah.
tied in with driveways,
So
all
you're
together.
referring to the leftover from.
Leftover from
Yeah. I think it goes back to, we can use that $90,000.
I'm not arguing that point. It's more, if you're already doing 218, why would you stop?
Yeah, and that's exactly our piece, but I think our piece is that we can do that full amount without needing to dip into patching and still have funding on the table, basically, if we take it from basically the extra from River Road.
Option one's a no-brainer. We did it all, we still have money.
Yes,
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
And to that point, because this is also another contract for this particular outfit.
Yeah.
And are they going to give us any bit of a deal lumping in a bunch of different contracts, or it just seems like we give them a bunch of business, there's some way to.
So, I can't speak for them, I guess, but what I can, yeah, that would be nice.
So many cost or so many ton.
So they are, clearly they're bidding competitively because they bid all of those on, and they were the lowest bidder in and of itself for these projects, including the next one that we'll talk about. But with this one in particular, the asphalt wearing surface, that will be the price, because that's tendered based on the drawings. The pulverize and resurface, we asked only for 100 meters, and they're clear, and they told us as part of the conversation, the longer you go, the cheaper your linear
Yeah,
meter
exactly.
rate. So we're using that rate at 100 meters and
Yeah.
extending that times 2.5. The likelihood is that we'll see a reduction there, based on going the full amount. We're using those numbers because
It just
It's a
seems like
fake bet.
there's a carrot to dangle there that will do
Yes.
all of this business.
yes, yeah.
What are you going to do from a,
Yeah, and we'll
Cost
definitely,
saving.
we'll be able to get that from this project in particular of the Dundee extension, or not the Dundee extension, the resurface of what exists on Dundee. The other ones will be, those will be the price, because they're tendered like that, but we'll definitely work with them based on this additional work for sure.
they can always say no.
That's right.
So if you don't ask, the answer's no.
Right. You know, I love the wheel and deal, that's my.
Don't we know?
We appreciate it.
Hopefully this is a noticeable improvement on our roads for our residents.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, everyone's gonna be so happy.
100%.
All right, no additional questions, all in favor?
Uh,
Reminded, motion carried. Moving on to item 8.4, award of Sols 2025-04 Eagle Ridge Drive wearing surface.
So similar to the last one, this one's a little bit different in that it's a separate subdivision agreement. And this one was done prior to the implementation of our residential incentive program. So the town basically agreed to provide a lump sum contribution. And then the developer was responsible for the remainder, which the town has in security essentially. The town then applied for RDC funding, so essentially the town's portion is covered, which again is based on housing enabling funding. So with that, again, similar to the extension of Dundee, 3 RFQs were issued, 2 of which were returned. The third, again, did not want to bid on this particular project. And we're recommending awarding to the lowest bidder.
I'll move that council award tender RFQ SALS 2026-04 to Browns Paving Limited for asphalt paving of Eagle Ridge Drive as per residential subdivision agreement number 1 at the price of $107,850.20 excluding HST.
It's moved by Councilor Colwell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Blinas. Questions to the
I
motion?
have a comment, maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to. If we can get RDC funding to cover our portion of this, why wouldn't we do this more often? And
So
it's not guaranteed, but it's like,
the RDC funding's exhausted now. So like we were like in very early, and even
We
for
did very
McDonald
well, yeah,
Road.
we did very well compared to many
Yeah.
communities.
McDonald Road in Dundee, we were talking about that this morning, actually. That share is an odd number. It's 46.7% because the funding stream didn't really exist. It's like, we just kind of found a way to make it work with them. But any housing funding would have to go through CHIF, so through the bilateral with the feds. So
there's a way to like reword our agreements or our incentive programs so that if it was available, we had the option on our portions of things we do.
the way that it's worded is that and with our agreements that we sign in light of the incentive program, is that we're just committing to a share. How that funding is shared, whether it's through RDC or operating budget, is
It's
not.
already in that option. Okay.
Yeah. Like, getting RDC funding does not commit us to more, to additional cost sharing.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm just trying to picture this area.
Mhm.
There's no development that's started there yet, correct? Is there anywhere in our agreement that like, it has to start by a certain amount of time that we invest money into this, or no?
No, so, that was one of the challenges, or this is one of the challenges, I would say, with this one not being approved under our incentive program.
Right,
Our incentive program, is, yeah, it has
Yeah.
timelines, it has processes if they don't, like, they have extensions and stuff like that. It has verifications that they have to prove certain things when when they're requesting claims, like if I use that one as an example that we just mentioned. They had to prove foundation photos, inspection proofs, rent rolls to show the affordability, all of those things they have to provide. And there's requirements in there for timing, so I mentioned August, so there's things tied there with that second building, so there's steps in place. With Eagle Ridge, this was done before our incentive program, it helped inform our.
It was a lesson to put the incentive
Yes.
program in place.
Yeah, for consistency and all of those things, but also
Yeah.
timing. The intent is that, our understanding is that we'll see some development there this summer. Will it be full? Probably not, based on what.
Anything would be nice,
Yeah.
considering the negotiations that we went through.
Correct,
with it.
and there is power there now, so that's the
Okay.
other thing that we were waiting.
Right.
The developer is waiting a really long time for MB Power, and that is installed now finally, so.
Okay.
But to Stephanie's point, does it make sense to wait till next year to do this?
Our funding cannot be carried over anymore, so it was, yeah, so it was supposed to be done last year. And we were able to carry it over, because part of our share is coming from RDC, and we're not gonna be able to carry it over anymore. It was this bit of a haul to get it extended this year.
So if we pave that and then there's construction happening in there for there and for Dundee, can the road handle that? Like fresh pave and then construction be?
It's not ideal, that's for sure. That's why we're waiting for the second building on that one. In particular with concrete trucks have to come in and out. The wheel work, this one is also later. So the intent is that we'll try to get in after the kind of heavy
December?
development happens. It might not be that late, but it goes until end of November, I think, that window is, so. We'll work with as reasonable and as practical as we can.
Heavy concrete stuff should be done by then, right?
Ideally, yeah, ideally, yeah. We've had that conversation a lot, and with this one in particular, like, the likelihood, again, going back to the conversation of RDC not, their funding is exhausted more and more now. And so carryovers, they're just saying, no, it's as simple as that. And we already had this one carried over once, it was supposed to be done last year.
The developer wants good roads too.
Yes, the developer would have to do roads, good roads, because that's what their agreement says, but we're technically also, in this case, on the hook to make sure that they're, yeah.
No additional questions, all in favor? Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Moving on to item 8.5, resolution 2026-090, the Fox in the Park 2026 agreement renewal.
So as council knows, we're processing a couple of bylaws related to this, in section 9, of tonight's agenda. But as for the sake of a reminder, the town has a lease agreement, with the Fox in the Park. It permits the annual renewal. The direction was provided for that in the fall when we did the update on the public consultation, but, we did not take it from committee of the whole to regular council. So we're seeking that formal resolution. The zoning amendment does have to be approved by the province technically before this agreement can be extended, but we do have the option to continue operating under the temporary use permit that was provided last year. So that's the other piece that's explained in the memo. And it's a continuation of last year's agreement, and we're doing it for 1 year. So with that, there's a recommendation on the floor.
I'll move that whereas council executed an agreement with 765040 NB Limited operating as the Fox in the Park on April 14th, 2025, and whereas the town will process this proponent's application under bylaw number 20, a seasonal vending bylaw, be it therefore resolved that the council of the town of Salisbury extend the operating arrangement as per section 1C of the agreement. Be it further resolved that the town direct the proponent to follow the application and permitting process under bylaw number 20, once implemented, and in the absence of registration of bylaw number 17-2, use this agreement renewal as permission to operate in the 2026 season under existing temporary use 25-0568, issued by the Planning Review and Adjustment Committee on May 29th, 2025.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Dykstra, seconded by Councillor Thorne. Questions to the motion?
Did they share if there was anything that they would do different, or?
Just based on what was presented here, like there's some pieces, they've been talking to Rec and Wellness, already. There were some conversations before we finalize our performances in particular. And then we're gonna have some further conversations just in terms of leveraging some of those probably promotional
Lighting,
pieces.
performances, like, yeah, that would be different.
And I think they're gonna do some more like activations, like programming as well, like their Pizza in the Park was really well received, so they're gonna look at some things like that to see how they can build on that. It's a little bit, they can plan more this year. Last year was a scramble as we got it approved and got as they got the liquor license approval, so they'll definitely implement some
I
of
could
these
see the
lessons.
entertainment piece being a bit difficult, because if it's something that brings in a lot of business for them, but then somebody schedules to have the amphitheater, that would be a.
They always, and even last year, we got them to, anytime they had performances, to book the amphitheater, so we had that in place, but there was some like. It actually, it was a good thing, but it showed that like we should team up on this, so last year for Music Fest. They had a band that was there that wanted to practice that day, and they said, sure, and it was Star 69. So then they ended up just playing in between sets, which told us like, okay, we need a band to play in between sets when we have the changeover from kind of some of the larger bands.
Pier 19.
Was it Pier 19? Okay, yes, okay, so anyways, they had.
Get the credit.
Yeah, sorry, yes. So they, there's some of those conversations happening too, so, some of the, like, there are a few amphitheater booking requests already this year, so we're talking to them about if there's things that they could do that night and those nights. So we're learning on that front for sure too.
And even, I think there was a movie night, the timing on the movie start.
Yeah.
Versus the performer, so they don't cross
So
over.
would we have like, or have it in our permits or like an MOU, kind of similar to community use things that we would supersede the business?
Yeah, because we approve any booking, so that's why we got them to do the amphitheater booking, and there was some last year that we said, can't, sorry,
That
we have something
amphitheater
going on.
booking is in their agreement with us?
Yes, yeah, because we have the ability to say we can or can't allow them to use the park, yeah, so it's still subject to our. Approval.
That's great.
Yeah,
It's a great problem to see that space is in demand and
yeah,
creating scheduling.
yes,
conflicts.
yeah, exactly, and the Music Fest was a good example of like, we were like, okay, this worked really well, like, people were like, that was so smart that you guys thought of that, we're like, yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Write that down for next time.
Yeah.
The shipping container has to come out at the end of the year though, now?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, which was the intent last year, like the intent was to move it, but we got that direction to keep it there too, so we will have it moved. It can be stored somewhere, so it doesn't necessarily have to go, like, it can be stored somewhere else. Just can't be accessible, yeah, no. Austin South can't write it in the zoning that he's in.
Your house, yes.
Yeah. There's options there that we'll explore with them.
Your kids can do a lemonade stand right out of it.
Probably.
There you go.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. With that, we'll move on to item 8.6, multi-year grant request, Salisbury Taekwondo.
Forward to that?
So on February 19th, 2026, the town received a multi-year grant request from Salisbury Taekwondo in the amount of $500, submitted online with our online grant form. The purpose of the funding is to help the club with purchase of needed safety equipment, as well as help support their yearly tournament. Basically, in January of this year, the town received a grant request to help with monthly fees for less fortunate students, and at that time, council, the request was denied, and it was encouraged that the students apply through the FAR program. It was also suggested that they may want to consider applying for a multi-year grant program, which is why we received another multi-year grant program request in February. As the town has supported the tournament for several years now, staff recommend council approve the grant request. This tournament occurs in Salisbury. The multi-year grant agreement would include the following stipulations in addition to the template requirements. The postal codes that postal codes be provided for recipients, as with other sports organizations, to track the former Dover versus former LSD participants in recreation programming supporting in various ways by the municipality. So to date, this fiscal year, out of 45,000 has been committed and or distributed under the grant policy, which leaves 5,000 remaining for 2026. Recommendation?
I'll move that council approve a multi-year grant agreement between the town of Salisbury and Salisbury Taekwondo in the amount of $500 per year for 5 years for a total contribution of $2,500. subject to terms and conditions of the agreement as recommended, and authorize the clerk and mayor to sign the agreement and affix the corporate seal accordingly.
Second.
It's moved by Councillor Thorne, seconded by Councillor Barnett. Questions to the motion?
Great response to our recommendations. Yes, good.
All in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried. Moving on to item 8.7, Maritime Ignite Fire Academy Inc. request.
So on March 22nd, the town received a grant request from Maritime Ignite Fire Academy, Inc. in the amount of $1,000. The request was submitted via the online grant form. Maritime Ignite program is offering 2 weeks of hands-on firefighting training, leadership development, physical fitness program, and mentorship from experienced firefighters. The camp was started by a former member of Salisbury Fire and Rescue who now serves in the Hillsborough Fire Department. To date, we now have 45,500 has been confirmed. So it drops it down to 4,500 remaining in 2026. Considering the remaining grant budget for 2026, staff are recommending not awarding the grant for Maritime Ignite Fire Academy, Inc. under the grant policy. Basically, of note, the town will encourage the proponent to consider applying for future grant requests, but also encourage the proponent to refer any camp applicants and or participants to the town's fire program, where this camp would be an eligible use for the fire funding. This would also ensure that any contributions from the town would be provided to residents within the town specifically, as opposed to approving a grant for overall operations of the camp, which may not necessarily benefit exclusively from town residents. There's our recommendation as well.
I'll move that council not approve the current grant request from Maritime Ignite Fire Academy Incorporated in light of the town's remaining grant budget for this fiscal year, but encourage the proponent to refer participants from the town of Salisbury to the Financial Assistance for Recreation Program for offsetting of registration costs. So moved.
It's moved by Councillor Thorne, seconded by Councillor Dykstra. Questions to the motion?
Is this a youth camp?
Yeah, under 18.
I feel like the firefighters association would give them what they're asking for.
Potentially, yeah, we can, yeah, they,
Percent with that in response, like they
Yeah.
are very
yeah.
generous with that stuff usually.
They probably say the same thing if there's a youth in Salisbury that wants to attend. They would probably say the same.
No, with the association,
Yeah, they may, I would think they would probably say the same thing, but we can direct them, yeah, we can direct them.
like not
So
just for them, recommend they.
That's what, yes, yeah, that's what, yeah. that's good.
Cause
Yeah.
it covers a broader landscape, right? It's not just Salisbury.
Maybe,
But this camp isn't run in Salisbury, right?
maybe, I mean, depends on their fundraising, what money's
Right.
geared for, right?
No, I'm talking about the association, not our fire department. The association is like
Right,
encompasses all of these fire departments, including Havelock. The
no,
firefighters association.
Is
that's ours, yeah, each one, like, there's a
Like,
Salisbury
is
one,
there-
not that, one not has money,
Each municipality might have their own.
yeah,
Well, then,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Even then,
yeah,
that would be where I would probably go.
yeah, that's fair, yeah, we'll put that in
Maybe go
there
to
and
both
say,
for Free, like. petty-
fire associations may assist with, yeah,
Right?
with, yeah.
So
Okay,
maybe other,
Very-
when we refer to the fact that we're saying no, we are indicating that our budget is not
Yeah.
small, right?
Yeah, I think
Because
you
you
are,
were encouraged to come back in another year.
yes, they can, and we'll explain that process and say, like, our grant policy is here.
We should be transparent though too, that it's also because it's not,
Yeah, we'll direct them to fire too, like, it will be a letter that will explain all of that, and we'll add the fire associations as well.
yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Contrary minded? Moving on to item number 9, bylaws, item 9.1, the third reading of bylaw number 17.2, zoning bylaw, text amendment, seasonal vending use shipping containers.
I will read a bit of background and then pass it over to Diane, should council choose to do third reading. So on March 9th, town council held a public hearing as required under the Community Planning Act for consideration of bylaw number 17-2, a bylaw to amend the town of Salisbury zoning bylaw. The intent is a text amendment which modifies section 3.11 of the town zoning bylaw, permitting shipping containers to be used for seasonal vending purposes. Also on March 9th, town council held first and second reading, both by title only, of the proposed bylaw. On March 10th, public notice pursuant to section 70 of the Local Governance Act was issued on the town's website, advising of the consideration of bylaws, including this one. The public notice remains available on the town's website. In addition to the bylaws being available in full, they have been made available on the public notice webpage, they have been made available in full on the town's bylaw webpage since February 26th. They have also been available in person at town hall during business hours, both of which satisfy section 15.4 of the Local Governance Act, stipulating that bylaws to amend existing bylaws can be read all 3 times by title only when these notice requirements are met. In addition to the legislated public notice, notification for the bylaw consideration was included in council highlights on March 9th, in the town newsletter sent on February 27th, and both the March and April 2026 editions of the Petitcodiac News and Views paper, and subsequently posted on the town's Facebook page on March 11th. No comments were received with respect to the bylaw, including at the public hearing, and no visits and/or inquiries were made to the office with respect to the proposed bylaw. So with that, there's a recommendation on the floor, and then should council choose to proceed, Diane will read the title the bylaw by title only.
I'll move that whereas council has fulfilled the requirements of section 15.4 of the Local Governance Act, council have third reading of bylaw number 17-2, a bylaw to amend bylaw 17, Town of Salisbury zoning bylaw by title only.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Molina, second by Councilor Colle. Questions to the motion? See no questions to the motion, all in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried. Moving on to item 9. Oh, you have to, sorry, Diane.
So I gotta remember my title.
You're gonna be busy here for the next, you need a good.
Thank God for title only. So by the third reading of bylaw number 17-2, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 17, Town of Salisbury zoning bylaw. Is third reading, enactment can be done as soon as this, as soon as we're signed.
It goes to the province of this one.
This one, oh yeah, sorry, it goes to the registry office once it's ready.
Moving on to item 9.2, third reading bylaw number 18, procedural.
So similar, I'll read background. On March 9th, council held first and second reading, both by title only, of bylaw number 18. The proposed bylaw is pursuant to section 10.2A of the Local Governance Act, which outlines the procedures and processes for meetings of Salisbury Town Council. The procedural bylaw currently was adopted by most municipalities affected by local governance reform. While it has served its functional purpose, the town has identified several items where the bylaws has recommendations to be updated based on our procedures and processes. The previous one was introduced by the facilitator, so we, as opposed to repealing, we're reintroducing a new one, passed 3 times entirely by council. In terms of public notice, on March 10th, public notice pursuant to section 70 of the Local Governance Act was issued on the town's website. The public notice remains available on the town's website. In addition to the bylaw being available in full on this public notice page, it has also been made available in full on the bylaw page since February 26th. Also been available in person at town hall during business hours. These satisfy section 15.3 of the Local Governance Act, which outline notice requirements to be read by title only for new bylaws. In addition to legislated public notice, notification was included in council highlights on March 9th, the April 2026 edition of Petitcodiac News and Views, and posted on the town's Facebook page on March 11th. Similar to the last, no comments were received with respect to the bylaw, no visits and/or inquiries were made to the office with respect to the bylaw either. With that recommendation, on over to Diane.
I move that whereas council has fulfilled the requirements of section 15.3 of the Local Governance Act, council have third reading of bylaw number 18, a bylaw respecting the proceedings of Salisbury Municipal Council and committee meetings by title only with the enactment as of May 11th, 2026.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Glenn, second by Councilor Thorne. Questions to the motion? See no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried.
So third reading. Number 18. Bylaw number 18, a bylaw reflecting the proceedings of Salisbury Municipal Council and committee meetings. And this one will be enacted as of May 11th.
Thank you. Moving on to item 9.3, the third reading of bylaw number 19, code of conduct for council.
So on March 9th, council held first and second reading, both by title only, of bylaw number 19. Purpose of the bylaw is to satisfy regulation 2024-48 of the Local Governance Act. In the fall of 2025, a memo was circulated to municipalities on behalf of the Local Governance Commission with respect to apparent errors in several, if not all, code of conduct bylaws. As a standard practice, most code of conduct bylaws had accepted discussions under the bylaws in closed session. However, councils are not defined as employees under the act and therefore cannot have items related to employment and personnel matters be considered under the code of conduct bylaw and subsequently discussed in closed. So our bylaw required an amendment. On March 10th, public notice pursuant to section 70 of the act was issued on the website. The notice remains available. In addition to the bylaw being available on that public notice webpage, it has been made available on the town's bylaw page since February 26th. Been available at town hall during business hours. Both items satisfy section 15.3 of the Local Governance Act related to when new items or new bylaws are introduced and can be considered by title only. In addition to the legislative public notice, notification was included in council highlights from March 9th, April 2026 edition of the Petitcodiac News and Views, and on the town's Facebook page on March 11th. No comments were received and no visits and or inquiries were made to the office either. With that, recommendation on the floor.
I'll move the council have third reading and enactment of bylaw number 19, a code of conduct for council of Salisbury bylaw by title only, where section 15.3 of the Local Governance Act has been met.
Seconded by Councillor Colwell, seconded by Councillor Dykstra. Questions for the motion?
It's all there, so that we'll be here to use it.
Seeing no questions to the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried.
So third reading is bylaw number 19, a code of conduct bylaw for the Council of Salisbury. And that one's done.
Going on to item 9.4, the third reading of bylaw number 20, seasonal and temporary vending.
My last one is pretty much a copy and paste, bear with me. On March 9th, council held first and second reading, both by title only, and proposed bylaw number 20, seasonal vending bylaw. Purpose of the proposed bylaw is to outline the permitting process required for the proponents who wish to apply for a seasonal vending permit, which will include container-based proponents under the text amendment currently being proposed since passed by council. This bylaw outlines the permit process, fees, requirements, contravention processes, etc. On March 10th, public notice pursuant to section 70 of the Local Governance Act was issued on the town's website. Public notice remains available on the town's webpage. In addition to the bylaw being available in full on this public notice, it has also been made available in full on the town's bylaw webpage since February 26th. Been made available at town hall during business hours, all of which satisfy section 15.3 of the Local Governance Act with respect to reading bylaws by title only when these requirements are met. In addition to the legislative public notice, notification was included in the council highlights on March 9th, April 2026 edition of Petitcodiac News and Views, and it was posted on the town's Facebook page on March 11th. No comments were received with respect to the bylaw, no visits and or inquiries were made to the office with respect to the proposed bylaw either. With that, recommendation on the floor.
I'll move that council have third reading and enactment of bylaw number 20, seasonal vending bylaw by title only where section 15.3 of the Local Governance Act has been met.
Second.
So moved by Councillor Thorne, seconded by Deputy Mayor Blinas. Questions to the motion? Seeing no questions, all in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried. We on, sorry.
Number 20, a bylaw of the municipality of Salisbury relating to seasonal and temporary vending. Done.
That's a record. All right, item 10, closed session. There's nothing for closed this evening. Moving on to item number 11, notices of motions and resolutions. Item 11.1, appointments to the Cultural Policy Implementation Committee.
So this is appointments based on terms of reference that were approved by council at our last council meeting, I think, in March. Yeah.
I'll move that council appoint committee members as recommended.
Second,
Moved by Councillor Dykstra, seconded by Councillor Bland. Questions to the motion?
we just draw this out so that Austin doesn't hit his time target.
We're almost there.
No questions.
See no questions, all in favor? Contrary minded. It was Blaine. All right, so moving on to the last item.
Motion to adjourn.
I was gonna pause here just to make last confirm. All right, so moved by Counselor Thorne, we are adjourned.